Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the NTNU European Conference. My name is Toril Hernes, and I'm Vice President of Innovation and also Research today. And I'm delighted to see you all here this morning. We had a very good opening ceremony yesterday, and I'm full of expectation of the day today as well. We have a row of sessions throughout the day where we will address important topics for European research and innovation, but also for the global society. The NTNU European Conference was first organized in 2015. And since then, the conference has developed into an important meeting place with Europe and the Brussels arena for NTNU and all NTNU's employees, as well as important guests as well. But as Rector Tor Grande said yesterday during the reception, we also like to think that the conference has developed into a point of reference for discussions and dialogues about European research and innovation policies. The big topic in European research and innovation these days are, of course, the 10th Framework Programme. And it was obvious that also this Framework Programme should be a main topic of the conference this year. We are going to start a discussion about Horizon Europe, about the successes we have experienced so far, what should be kept and strengthened in the 10th Framework Programme, and what has perhaps not worked so well that needs to be changed or corrected in Horizon Europe and also in the next Framework Programme. A new commission will soon also take place, a commission that will make strategic choices for European policies, including research and innovation. And I hope we today will be creative in our discussion and come up with novelties that could possibly be put forward for the new decision makers. And to help us to understand and reflect, we will have excellent speakers today and panelists as well. And I will soon introduce you to contributors, but before I do so, I would like to express some words about some messages in NTNU's position paper for the 10th Framework Programme. And this position paper we publish today. In this position paper, we call for a sustainable and ring-fenced budget of 200 billion euros. This is in line with the position of European University Association and also CESAR. Solutions to the several challenges that Europe and the global community are facing in the present and the coming decades heavily depend on a continued strong research and innovation effort across Europe and the world. We also call for a continuation of the program structure of Horizon Europe for the 10th Framework Programme. We believe that the current structure has proven to be an efficient way to organize funding opportunities, and that changes in the structure would imply high investment costs for research and innovation stakeholders. So corrective actions should rather be considered instead of a full structural change to address the weaknesses. NTNU also support continued funding for research and innovation in the full knowledge value chain in Framework 10 program, from low to high technology readiness levels, but advocates for more funding for excellent curiosity-driven research at low to middle TRLs, especially for collaborative research in Pillar 2 and 3. We also, for those of you who attended the discussion yesterday, we heard that there was a discussion about research and innovation, and excellence in research is a prerequisite for innovation and competitiveness as well. The potential for fundamental knowledge and technology development for innovation has so far not been fully exploited as we see it. And collaborative projects from low to middle tier levels are imperative for strengthening the innovation ecosystem across Europe. But we also would like to see a stronger link between Pillar 1 and Pillar 3 in the next framework project, bridging excellence in research with innovation, which will increase impact from research considerably. Furthermore, yesterday we also heard about the flagship discussions as well. And when it comes to EIC Pathfinder, we would like this to be strongly linked to, or perhaps also included in Pillar 1, and that in general, the interplay between Pillar 1 and 3, as I said just recently, that this should be strengthened. We would not like to give up the missions in the 10th framework program, but we would like this to be really integrated elements in Framework 10. We are also positive to the strategic partnerships in the next framework program, but find that there is a need for a rationalization in terms of the number of partnerships, while also an effort should be made to make participation models for more easily participation models should be more easily understood. We also have some views about the EIT KICs as well. NTNU has actually been a member of most of the KICs, and we have some experience, and we would strongly advise that an effort is made to drive the design of the business and sustainability models of the KICs in a direction that contribute to retaining universities within the KICs, because we think that is important in the coming period. FP10 should also accommodate a responsible approach to dual use of knowledge and technology, bearing in mind that universities have an important role in the development of research both for civil and military use. This is indeed a difficult topic that needs careful thinking, but as a technical university, we are already working a lot with technology and also humanity research that are related to the military and defense sector as well. And finally, while acknowledging the strategic priorities toward inclusion, democracy, and resilience in Horizon Europe, NTNU wishes to stress the need for further development and extension of these perspectives also in the next framework program. I expect that we will discuss these matters today, and we raise in our position paper throughout the day also, as well as also other important topics and issues. I am particularly glad that we have put 3 thematic areas of really utmost importance on the agenda in the parallel sessions today. After the coffee break, we're going to talk about ocean, treasures and forecasts. We will talk about the power of artificial intelligence and digitalization in transforming healthcare in Europe. And we will talk about the geopolitics of energy. These are big and important topics of immense importance for the future. And after lunch, we will look into the future and discuss priorities for the next framework program. Horizon Europe has been centered on green and digital transformation, and we know and we will discuss how will we go forward. The world is, however, changing, and we know that there might be other priorities now than it was when Horizon Europe was started, and that is important to discuss today. So let's get started. I am extremely glad to introduce to you the first speaker of the day. That is Professor Manuel Hayter, professor at the University of Lisbon and chairman of the high-level group for the evaluation process of Horizon Europe. So, Professor Hayter, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everyone, and again, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. It's always a pleasure to contribute for this discussion. I would like to be very, very clear. I do not represent the Commission. I'm here as an individual. And as you may know, the high-level group has been established a few months ago, essentially to advise the Commission and essentially to listen to people like you. How can we contribute always for a better Europe? And therefore, we are about 15 people from different parts of Europe, north and south, east and west, central and peripheries of Europe, from industry, academia, and research and technology organizations, essentially discussing which is the current situation, what should be the next steps. Particularly in the short term, we still are in the middle of Horizon Europe, don't forget. So we have already been presented to all of us a strategic report for 2025-27, which accommodates some changes, but we need to reflect on that and essentially look then at the medium and the long term. But we can also start from the long term. What is our vision for Europe in the long term, for the 2040s? Because particularly when we look at research and innovation, we are also looking at the future and essentially thinking on the future and planning the future to construct our present. So which is our ambition for always a better European context, and based on that ambition, which are the medium-term and the short-term implications? And that is the reflection that this group is currently starting. So I'm here more in the listening mode, to listen to you, and particularly to ask all of you to contribute to this discussion. Actually, many people in the European Parliament, many stakeholders, actually also NTNU, but also the important networks under which NTNU also and many of you participate, such as César or Leroux, but also members of the European Parliament just next door, has argued for the doubling, the needs to double the research budget in Europe. And that has become a commonplace. The key issue is why we need more and better research and innovation, and how can we explain that to European citizens? And that is our particular role, and we would like you all to contribute. All of us have seen many agriculture manifestations throughout Europe. We don't see scientists and academics on the streets asking for more research funds. So also our role is to stimulate an active participation in this process. And first and foremost, I will be very brief, but we should be very proud. We should be very proud of the building up of what today we call the European research and innovation ecosystem. But by being proud, we need to have the courage and ambition to do always better. Some of you may remember that 20 years ago, exactly in 2004, Commissioner Philippe Busquin launched an high-level group. Probably some of you participated in those discussions like myself, because by that time the question was the lack of scientists and human resources in science and technology in Europe. we were decreasing the number of researchers. 20 years after, in 2024, we know that we have been able to attract youngsters for doing research. 10 years ago, we have about 1.38 million researchers officially registered in terms of full-time equivalent in Europe. The last Eurostat data show 2 million. So we have increased considerably the number of researchers in Europe by attracting youngsters, much past the ambition 20 years ago. Now, the overall research and innovation labor force represents 1% of the European labor force. And this is in part a result of the European Framework Programme together with national initiatives and member states initiatives. But we should be careful. If we should be proud for being able to attract more young people, more women and men to doing research. We know that the quality of the research job has not increased at the same pace. And that is the reason why today there is an increasing discussion in Europe about the issue of research careers. And this is just to give you an example. But there are many stories which will make us proud of. First and foremost, the development of the RNA vaccines during COVID. That was a clear example of the impact of fundamental research, which has allowed to build a capacity able to produce vaccines that prevented the spread of a disease throughout Europe. But like this, we can see many other issues. So more than just asking the doubling, actually that has been all the high-level groups before. 7 years ago, the so-called LAMI group have asked for doubling. We didn't get that doubling. 15 years ago, when we moved from FP7 to Horizon 2020, the high-level group and many partners or stakeholders have also asked for the doubling, and we have not got that doubling. So we have been observing an increase in the overall research budget, but not enough. Not enough, because overall, actually, the last Eurostat data published about 2 months ago clearly show a quasi-stagnant overall investment of research and development in Europe. We are about 2.2%, roughly in the last 20 years, and actually from 2021 to 2022, there was a decrease in the overall investment in research and development in the full European scheme. Certainly, with notable exceptions, there are only out of the 27, 4 countries that got to the 3% target of GDP: Germany, Austria, Belgium, and Sweden. And we know that we still have a quite diversity of situations throughout Europe. And also new challenges are coming. We have war back in Europe, which was completely not forecast a few years ago. But security of our citizens, together with energy security, has already been approached, and also food security, particularly looking at new opportunities that science-based agriculture, and particularly protein enrichment schemes, are providing to citizens. So if it is true that we are facing completely new challenge, it is also true that we have a scientific and research and innovation capacity which we believe can face this issue. So my point here is to ask you to contribute actively to this discussion. The Commission last year has opened an audition process. Many contributions have received, and now we are looking at all those issues raised, but also asking all the stakeholders interested in deepening this discussion, essentially looking at 4 questions, which are the main challenges for research and innovation: what should be kept, what should be preserved, and what should be enhanced or killed in the current framework programs. And I know that NTNU, among many others, are contributing for this process. So feel free to contribute. And particularly, and I will close with this, discussing why we need more research and innovation for Europe in the current context should be discussed in our view, and that is why the high-level group is deepening this discussion under at least under four main issues. First and foremost, the critical role of competitive excellence, either what many people call science for science, what traditionally has been in Europe since 2007, critical programs like the European Research Council for Fundamental Research or the Marie Curie actions for PhD training and PhD mobility, either across academic sector, but also between academy and the industry. And if this is true for fundamental research, again, I mentioned already the vaccines for COVID, but many other examples can be given that fundamental research, say science for science, is absolutely critical to keep Europe a resilient and a strong power. We also know that competitive excellent innovation is also critical. And if you look at the recent EIC, the European Innovation Council impact reports, either these 2023 just published and 2022, you really understand the key synergies, which you have already mentioned, between fundamental research and disruptive innovation. Today, many of the most disruptive startups in Europe, as elsewhere in the world, has been essentially derived from fundamental research. And if this is true in the biomolecular research, is also true in new space systems or new materials, and also in food security, particularly for protein enhancement. And those reports show that. So why we need more fundamental research together with disruptive innovation. And again, many reports has been published, particularly through economic analysis on this issue. The second point is, as already also mentioned, industrial competitiveness. Again, over the last 40 years of the framework program, and we need to remember that we have now 40 years of the framework program, we have essentially built, in our understanding, a unique view of collaborative research and building collaboration. The point is, under the current global framework, and the white elephant behind our tables is always the gap between Europe and the United States, but more and more against China, with China already investing more in R&D than Europe, and Europe have not been able to get to the 3% target of the United States. The point is that how far our mechanisms of collaborative research are adapted to promote industrial competitiveness. And that is the discussion that you should also contribute, particularly when we look at partnerships and other type of issues. Third, the important issue of societal challenge. As you all know, societal challenges and so-called great challenges has been introduced in the framework program in Horizon 2020. And 15 years ago, when we all discussed the transition from FP7 to Horizon 2020, you should remember that discussion. And it was an important breakthrough of Horizon 2020, say about 15 years ago, the introduction of societal challenge. So the point is, again, today, why we need more collaborative research to address societal challenge, which certainly includes the fight against climate change, which is not a poor national, regional, or European issue. It's a global issue. And in order to address that, we need definitely to understand international collaboration. International collaboration, certainly, with those with a very active and developed research system like the United States or Canada or Korea, but also, and above all, with those regions in the world which are demographically changed and completely will change the context of climate change in the coming 30 years. Don't remember that we live in a continent, Europe, which is aging, but Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, has the youngest population in the world, and in 30 years, so in 2050, Africa will double its population. So while now we have about 400 million European citizens and 1 billion in Africa, in 2050, if Europe will keep the same population, Africa will be 5 times more populated than Europe. And this brings, particularly for the European context of addressing societal challenges, key issue. Certainly, by addressing global societal challenge, which we are leading in Europe in terms of science and technology, we need also to understand our citizens, our young people, and how they will address security and certainly the context of aging. There has been a lot of discussion over the last 20 years how the framework program should address the key issue of an aging society, particularly under the so-called concept of One Health, which has been very much an issue dealt by national, say, member states, how far that can be more and more also an European reality. And these are the discussions that we would like to listen from you. Last but not least, my fourth point, so I start with competitive excellence, particularly in terms of science, but also innovation, then industrial competitiveness, third, societal challenge. My fourth and last point is about European research and innovation ecosystem. What we have called over the last 20 years the European research and now the European research and innovation area, which was launched also here in Brussels in 2004, that idea 20 years ago. The question is how to build and to strengthen the European research area, and this includes certainly research infrastructures, European research careers, which still have been discussed but do not exist, the widening, particularly for those zones which are still building their research and innovation capacity. So how can we better strengthen the European research and innovation area? Certainly to address these 4 topics, competitive excellence, industrial competitiveness, societal transitions or changes in the European ecosystems, we need instruments. So we'd like you to contribute for this discussion, how far the current instruments are adequate, they should be or can be improved. Very much particularly when we look at the last 40 years, in particular the last 20 years, there has been an evolution, never a revolution, as you mentioned, and many stakeholders are asking for this evolution. But don't forget that this discussion is very important. Actually, yesterday here in Brussels, Mario Draghi has presented some ideas for his current report on European competitiveness, and he asked us, European citizens, to understand the need for radical changes. And that discussion is coming. Also yesterday has been published in the European Union, the so-called letter report, which also addresses research and innovation as a critical European freedom. He calls the 5th freedom. So we know the important value and relevance of research and innovation, but we need also all of you to really emphasize that. In the discussions will come, we will have elections, we will have a new Commission, a new European Parliament, we will have next year in 2025 a new multi-annual financial framework program. And so this discussion and your active participation is particularly relevant in the coming months, and what we want is to contribute and to help you, to help all of us, particularly in the research and innovation scheme, to guarantee that we live always in a better Europe. And looking at that, we need to look at future generations, which are those that essentially can participate but also benefit from research and innovation. And certainly the European elections will give clear messages and information. How can we better address the context of the youngsters and of the future generations that will be able to benefit but also to actively participate in the building up of always a better and better European research and innovation ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Hayter, and you will join us in the panel discussion after. And I think NTNU is actually one of the universities in Europe that are engaging the most in the European program. So I think many of us that are here today have a lot of experience, and we want to discuss with you as well. And the work that you are doing in the high-level group of evaluating the Horizon Europe program is very important for us. So we will for sure give important input during today, but also in other forums as well. I just want to remind you about what you have here, because the first link here is the program of today, but the second link here that you can find and scan is to see the NTNU's position paper on the 10th framework program. We for sure also have more detailed, meanings and suggestions. So this is the first overall position paper that we will also discuss later on, and that I mentioned some points during my introductory speech today as well. So we have more excellent speakers today that will also join us during the panel discussion. And I'm so happy that our next speaker here today have the possibility of joining us. It is Professor Massimiliano Esposito. He's head of Unit Common Strategic Planning and Programming Services in the Commission. So please, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation. Let me correct, I'm not a professor, and the academic title that I reached was a PhD. I am an official of the European Commission. I'm a head of unit of the Common Strategic Planning and Programming Unit in Directorate General for Research and Innovation. It is indeed the unit that is coordinating the preparation, it has coordinated the preparation of the strategic plan that has been published last month, coordinating also the process for the work program preparation for the current program Horizon Europe, and it is also coordinating the preparation of the next of the proposal for the next framework program FP10. So for me, it's an honor to be here, first of all, and also an honor to speak after Professor Hayter, that has depicted very well what is the overall context of the current context for the preparation of the framework program. So I am here, I would like not to repeat many of the concepts, but I would like to underline some elements that are particularly important that already you have highlighted in your speech. And I'm very happy to read straight away also the position paper that NTNU has published, I understand, today, because it is really through this process of listening to you, also process of listening all stakeholders to understand what is working well in the current framework program, what less working well, how we can improve for the next framework program. That is the main process of listening to stakeholders for the preparation of the next framework program. In terms of context, I think you could not choose a better date, a timely date for the preparation of this conference that is in parallel also with the European Council. Our leaders today are also deciding for a new competitiveness deal for Europe, where also aspect of strategic autonomy of Europe, sovereignty, importance, it is highlighted and are currently discussed. You could not choose a better date for the conference today, also following the publication of the letter report that already Professor Heitor has highlighted, the letter report on the single market, where it is highlighted the importance of research and innovation, also for the research and innovation for the integration of the single market in EU. And we are looking forward also for the outcome of the process of Professor Draghi is leading for the competitiveness report. This is really the context that we really need to take into account in the preparation of the framework program. I need to repeat, I'm sorry, the importance of the investment of research and innovation, that we are still lagging behind with respect to competitors countries like United States and China. We are currently reaching the level of 2.2% of GDP, European GDP, in the investment on research and development, and we are still lagging behind the 3% target. When I started the Commission around 2005, there was already the Lisbon strategy. I remember very well, I was preparing my competition for the European Commission, the importance of the 3% target. After still almost 20 years, we have not yet reached this target, and we really need to take into account this process and this political context, the economic context for the preparation of the next framework program. Moreover, let me also indicate the importance to assess, evaluate the current program in order to prepare the next framework program. The Commission has adopted in January, at the end of January, the evaluation of the previous program, Horizon 2020, that already provides some indication. The overall budget was around 75.6 billion for the previous multi-annual financial framework program, and it has been estimated that we are lagging around 156 billion euro in order to be able to finance all the excellent quality proposal that we have received in the 7-year time frame of Horizon 2020. So this is also to underline the importance that we still need more investment for research and development. The evaluation has also highlighted the positive impact in economic and social impact of the program. It has underlined, it is estimated that €1 of cost of the program also for the applicants, in terms of applicants, cost for applicants to participate to the program, €1 of cost has been translated, it can be translated in €5 of benefit for the society by 2040. So this is an important indicator of the success of the impact of a framework program. Also in terms of economic impact, it has estimated that there is an improvement, an increase of 20% of growth rate for all companies that have been participating in the Horizon 2020 program, compared with respect to those companies that they have not participated to the program. An increase of 30% of turnover and increase of net assets for those companies with respect that have participated to the program with respect to those companies that didn't participate. So there are really benefits that have been measured in terms of positive impact of a framework program. Now, there are some aspects that need to be improved. We have listened, we have launched in order to prepare this ex post evaluation of Horizon 2020, as the Professor Heiter was also mentioning. We have launched a very broad consultation last year in the spring on the past, on the present, and on the future of research and innovation. So in the outcome, also in this ex post evaluation, there are some aspects that have been highlighted, and we need to be careful, and we need to try to implement already in the remaining years of the framework program. First of all, the point of simplification. This is one of the leitmotif already of many framework programs. We are still struggling behind to have a simpler framework program with the simpler rules in order to allow really to many newcomers also to have access to the program. This is the second point, to increase and to give the possibility, opportunity to have more newcomers or new entities to have access to funding of the framework program. Another aspect was also mentioned at the beginning introduction, the really need to have a more balanced approach between low basic research and higher TRL, more application, more market-oriented research. And there is also another aspect that is important that has been underlined in the ex-post evaluation, the need to have a more impactful research innovation investment, to promote more, to invest more on deployment of the results of the research. And the last point that I would like to underline, it is the increase of synergies between the different programs, so between the framework program and the other programs. These are the main aspects that have been highlighted in the Horizon 2020 ex-post evaluation. Now, we are carrying out also the interim evaluation of Horizon Europe. So we are in this phase of carrying out the evidence data gathering in order to assess how the current instruments are performing, like the partnership, like also the missions. For the missions, we already started to have a first assessment in July last year, but it is a partial assessment because it is a new instrument. Let's be realistic. We need to collect more data, more evidence to have a more objective analysis and assessment of the missions. Then, and we aim to publish the interim evaluation of Horizon Europe in the first quarter of 2025. Now, as I said, it's true, we are preparing, we are launching all the process for the preparation of the next framework program, but we are still there in the middle of the implementation of Horizon Europe. So what we can improve in the current program in order to make sure that some of these shortcomings can be already addressed in the remaining period of the program. So we have published the strategic plan 25-27 as indicated previously, and the strategy plan tries, it's already an effort to address some of these issues. In particular, you can see that we have tried to simplify the document. Many stakeholders have indicated that this document is too complex, it's too long. We have introduced an executive summary, a more user-friendly executive summary that can summarize what are the priorities and how research and innovation investment could contribute to what are defined the key strategic orientation for the 3 years that remain. The key strategic orientation are simpler, more straightforward. First one, green transition. Second, support to the digital transition. And the third one is the support to a more inclusive, democratic, competitive Europe. So taking into account also the current geopolitical context, strategic autonomy remains one of the main important aspect of the also of the current situation, but in Europe globally, but in particular also the impact of research and innovation investment. And the moderator was also mentioning the dual use discussion, and the Commission has launched a white paper, and we are looking forward also to receive your contribution on this public consultation on the dual use. This is important because it will be used also for the preparation of the next framework program. Another point that has been already highlighted, the strategic plan on the basis of the legal basis should focus indeed to Pillar 2, but as indicated by a moderator, what are the links? We need to really increase the bridges between the different pillars, between Pillar 2 and Pillar 3 and Pillar 1, the bridges between Pillar 1, excellent science and innovation. So there is also a chapter in this strategic plan focusing more on these bridges between the different pillars. And there is an important paragraph that try to really call for more investment of basic research, low-level TRL, also on the remaining, for the calls for the remaining years of the Horizon Europe. On this aspect of more balance between low TRL, high TRL, in particular in Pillar 2, we have published yesterday, the Commission has adopted yesterday the amendment for the work program 23-25. Basically, it's the amendment mainly for the work program 2024, where a series of experimental action, pilot actions have been published in Pillar 2 in order to promote the participation of university, of newcomers, to more bottom-up topics, to give more opportunities also for more low-level research in Pillar 2. So there is a series of pilot action, experimental action, where we have a more bottom-up description of the topic in order also to broaden more the participation in Horizon Europe and also the welcome newcomer to have access to investment. So I would like to conclude here my introduction. Happy to receive your question, happy to listen to you also on what are the positive aspect of the current framework program, what could be improved for the future. And let me conclude to say that it will be, the proposal for the next framework program will be defined in taking into account the outcome of this institutional transition of this year, in particular the outcome of the European Parliament election in June, and also the priorities of the new college, of the new commission that should be in place by the end of this year, and following a very thorough interim evaluation of Horizon Europe, impact assessment for the future framework program, we aim to propose, to bring forward a proposal in mid-2025. I'm not here in position to define the date precisely because it will be up to the new college to decide the timing. The only thing that I know I can underline that the MFF regulation the current MFF regulation for the multi-annual financial framework 21-27, set a date for the Commission to present a proposal for the overall proposal for MFF by 1st July 2025. So it is expected a proposal by the Commission on the next multi-annual financial framework by 1st July 2025. So we can expect more or less at the same time later on, or a few months later, also the proposal for the sectoral instrument, in particular for the framework program. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Esposito, and I think you mentioned a lot of interesting things for us as well, and we will come back to that in the panel discussion as well. And then I just want you, Esposito and Professor Heiter, to take a place here at the panel. And I also would like to invite Amanda Crawford, who is the Secretary General of the European University Association, to join, and also Dr. Lula Rosso of EARTO, which are also here today. So please take a seat, all of you. No, I will sit here. Okay, we have had some two very interesting speeches now, and we have two new participants in the panel. So I would like actually to let you start and also have some more minutes to really elaborate a little bit on how you find the Horizon Europe program. So first, Amanda, I give the word to you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yes, we have one more participant, and that is Annemie. Of course, I'm so sorry. Very important contributor as well. Sorry, Annemie. Yes, you will get the... Thanks, Annemie. I'm so sorry. And you will have the first after the two on as well. So Amanda, please go on.
Thanks so much. So as I was just saying, it's a great pleasure to be here today. I'm representing the European University Association. And just for anybody not familiar with EUA, we are the largest university association in Europe. We have approximately 900 members across 49 countries. So that's every country of the European higher education area. And so we sort of consider ourselves to be the sectoral voice of European universities. We're very active in the areas of policy advocacy, horizon scanning, evidence gathering, and acting as a platform for collaboration and peer learning for our members. As you can imagine, the framework programme Horizon Europe is hugely important to our members. I know this session is about Horizon Europe, but if I could just mention that last week we actually published the EUA vision for FP10, which you will find on our website. So please do have a look at that if you want to know more about what EUA thinks about the future. Turning to Horizon Europe, which is obviously the focus of this discussion, I think I first want to recognise the scale and uniqueness of Horizon Europe, and indeed the framework programme generally. It's the cornerstone of European research and innovation, and it's not just an average funding programme. So Horizon Europe is fostering collaboration at the frontiers of science and technology. It's tackling major societal challenges. It's shaping the direction of research and innovation across Europe at national level. It's supporting the European research area. It's driving public and private investment in research, and it's raising Europe's global profile. So I think we have to be really aware when we're talking about the programme of the huge range of objectives it has and impacts that it has. Obviously, we're only sort of partway through Horizon Europe, so I think many of the successes of the programme will come out later. But there's a few things I wanted to highlight from EUA's perspective that we see as particularly positive about Horizon Europe. We really like, for example, the mainstreaming of open science practices across the programme. I think that's a big step forward. We also really welcome the increased measures around gender, specifically the gender equality plans, which again I think are a big step forward. Universities, as you know, massively appreciate the European Research Council, but I think we also really appreciate the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, which I think aren't talked about enough. And I think that having that instrument there for investment in the future of researchers, future researchers, is hugely important. So I'm not saying all these things are perfect and we couldn't suggest things to strengthen them, but I think we should recognise them as some real successes of Horizon Europe. However, I think, unsurprisingly, there are some things that we also think could be improved or strengthened or corrected, either in the rest of Horizon Europe or in FP10. The first thing, and we've already heard about this morning, and I'm sure everybody in this room will agree, there is insufficient budget to meet the very ambitious objectives of the framework programme and to fund all the high-quality proposals. So not only do we need more budget in FP10, we're calling for 200 billion euros, we also need a stable ring-fenced budget so that money isn't taken out of the framework programme to use for other things. Researchers need to know that the money on the table is going to stay in the programme. I think that is hugely important. We also need more simplification. We see a growing complexity of the programme, which is challenging. I think it's fair to say there is a persistent lack of synergies with other programmes and initiatives, which could be addressed. It's been mentioned already several times this morning, but we would really support a recalibration of the balance between basic research, applied research and innovation in the programme, and a stronger recognition that basic research is the foundation for breakthrough innovation, which I think has been lost a little bit in recent years. We think that communication, dissemination and exploitation of results could be better. And finally, we really value the openness of Horizon Europe and think association of third countries is crucial, but it could be made quicker and easier and a little bit more effective. On that note, I think one success recently has been the UK association to Horizon Europe, which we are so pleased at EUA to have seen. But we would also now call for the Swiss association to be finalised as soon as possible, because I think the programme is at its strongest when everybody is there participating together. So I'll stop there. That's a very, very brief run through of our thoughts on Horizon Europe and look forward to discussing it further. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Yes, and I think many of the points that you actually mentioned was also mentioned by both of the former presentation as well. But before we start discussing, I would like Dr. Lula Rosso to also say something from the IARTO. So please.
Thank you. And thank you for the invitation. Now I have a bit the challenge to be the fourth speaker talking about the priority for FP10 and what is working, but I'll try to do my best and go fast in what we agree on. The IARTO is the European Association of Research and Technology Organization, which is a critical actor within the innovation ecosystems, because our mission is often mandated by the member state, a non-profit, and on generating, integrating different knowledge, different infrastructure, different actors, so that in research and innovation really has an impact on the market. And for us, like for others today, the EU competitiveness and well-being now largely based on how well we succeed to really be able to apply the research results to society and technology. And unfortunately, this is not at the forefront of the political discussion, and so it's very important to work together to bring this link very prominently in the policy context and to have the support of policymakers. Because RTOs participate a lot in the framework program, And this is more of a strategic importance, even more than economic, because it's really the best tool we have to collaborate across Europe with all the actors that are important to transfer research results to the market. And in this, also, we are able to bring the local companies to European value chains and vice versa, the European excellences to have an impact also locally. So it is very important. And then we have some ideas of what FP10 should also have very clear in mind. And one thing is the directionality. So we need that EU research policy is linked with the industrial policy, the climate policy, defense, regional policy, so that everything works organically together towards the same political targets, and the research is able to provide the solutions for those what Europe needs. And this is at short term, medium term, and also importantly long term. But then we go to the budget, and again, I heard sufficient, yes, stable, yes, balanced, yes, across all TRLs, not leaving any gaps, low and high, small and big projects, different type of actions, so that because all have pro and cons, and all can be used strategically on how to improve the impact again. And then the portfolio approach. My colleague already mentioned the fragmentation of the research agenda into different programs. We see the innovation funds, LIFE, they all take in Digital Europe, they are all taking part of the research agenda, and they have their own rules, their own specificity. This is starting to become very complicated. And we need also guidance on how to create these pathways from the large-scale demonstration in Pillar 2 towards something that is more applied, and vice versa, the spin-off and the spin-in mentality that I think EDF is piloting. But also internally in the FP, how to make sure that the results of the projects go back to the strategic planning, and then from the strategic planning back to the project to make sure that the project feel part of a bigger picture. And on this, we are a bit concerned about the role of agencies. A lot is put on to them. They have contrasting priorities, and how can this work in practice? Then on the strengthening of collaboration approach, the technology infrastructure, a focus on technology infrastructures. These are the research infrastructures that are used for the co-development demonstration in near real conditions that are very important for the last stage and the overcoming of the valley of death in the working with companies and the universities. And then finally, the simplification. Again, simplification for the rules, the lump sum, please, something new coming from there. Mobility, and I could go on, but in the broad chapter of simplification. Thank you for your attention. And
thank you, Dr. Rosso, and I think Dr. Esposito and Professor Heiter could comment a little bit, but before you do that, I would like to challenge or actually hear Professor Annemie Wickman, because you have very much experience in the current framework program. You have attended a lot in different kinds of strategic discussions, but also in different projects in the Horizon Euro program and so on. So what do you hear now, and what are your experience? What are working good? What are the successes as you see it in the running program? And what should actually be improved? And sorry for introducing you late.
Well, let's start by repeating what you said. The Horizon program is unique, basically. And yes, it can be improved, but it is unique, and it's an amazing feature that this program is there and that so many people can participate. And to me, so let's say my first experience is from the 7th framework program. And for me, it just keeps improving with each program. And by improving, I mean, so where else could you create projects that go across sectors, across interests, across stakeholders, different ways of funding, research, innovation, working with society, capacity building, mobilizing communities on the ground, different kinds of stakeholders, both professionals and inhabitants, all in one project. Definitely not in the Norwegian national program. In no national program you could do that. And Horizon allows us to do this. Even more so in the missions. And again, yes, they're a new instrument, a lot could be improved, but it also is a trial and error, right? So, and everyone needs to participate, test them, see where it works, where it doesn't work, why it perhaps doesn't work, and what could be improved. So that is still going on, of course. And so yes, again, so the missions, also the new European Bauhaus initiative, for example, are instruments that really allow us to create this societal readiness. So we see, yes, okay, fine, we can, you can create a new technology in a lab, and then you try to get it into society, and society will resist, often windmills, etc. And if you had been working together with society, with the community, trying to see how could you have a better interaction, how could it be better embedded in the context, etc., perhaps you would have found a better solution. So those programs allow us to do that all within one project. Also to give feedback done directly towards policymakers, towards decision makers. So to really have this complete loop to make society more ready for this transition, for more people to participate in it, and to have a higher quality transition so that it's a positive transition and not something that, oh, it's going to be a catastrophe, we can't do this anymore, it's going to cost a lot. Yes, it is, but it can also give us a better quality of life, a better environment, better cities, communities, rural areas, everything more affordable for everyone. So I think that is very important to stress. And then, yes, let's test how we can fix some of the errors and things that aren't working so well. But in general, I think just to acknowledge that this is an amazing feat and it just needs to be strengthened and continued.
Let's continue this discussion, and you mentioned also here that the mission was a little bit early to say how it actually is working, but I know that many are saying also that the missions should be stronger integrated into the rest of the programs and so on. So, but Professor Hayter, will you during the evaluation also look upon that? How do we look at the different instruments as compared to the missions, the other part of the program, how integration between Pillar 1 and 2, Pillar 1 and 3, Pillar 2 and 3, and the balance, you know, between excellence in research and the impact that we see from the program? Would you like to comment on that first, and then?
Yes. Thank you so much for the question, and thank you so much for the different issues. Our role, and we are just starting our work, is essentially to look strategically at the existing framework program and discussing its advantage and shortcomings, particularly in the short term, and also with implications in the long term. That is clearly an issue, but we are not doing the detailed assessment like our colleague Esposito mentioned, that it will be published in the mid or in the beginning beginning of 2025. So our role is to look overall at the existing framework program, Horizon Europe, and identify its main advantage and what should be strengthened, what can be and should be preserved, but also what should not be kept in the program. And actually the 4 questions we have distributed, and I would like you to contribute, are very much in this line. We have been receiving many ideas from different stakeholders, industry, research, academic, but also the group itself has its own ideas and experience, and we are discussing that particularly under these 4, say, big topics that we need to understand. Because I will like also to remember you the 2 key issues actually that Commissioner Ivanov and the Director General Marc Lemaitre gave to us. Essentially, to really address what research and innovation offer uniquely to Europe at large, and why research and innovation needs to be taken at an European level. Because we know that the overall context, and that has been a discussion over the last 40 years, what should be a national responsibility, what should be an European context. And it's important for all of you in your positions papers to reflect this, the uniqueness of the framework program in European terms, because don't forget that every 7 years when people discuss the multi-annual financial program, there are many other people presenting other needs for Europe. And it is, for me, almost clear that within this audience, we all agree that we need to increase the overall funding for research in innovation, that the framework program, as just said, is unique in its performance, and that is the reason why it has increased. But don't forget that there are many other forums that they don't agree with these issues. So providing evidence, being very loudly in this discussion is very important. My last point is that we should also be proud by the uniqueness of the evolution of the framework program, although we know that we need to do more and better. But don't forget that we have a very complex but interesting decision-making process. The framework program and its rules and legislation, together with the multi-annual financial program, are essentially based on what is known in Brussels to be a co-decision process. So this is not just a one way of an advisory group to recommend the Commission to have a decision. The decision is taken as a co-decision process with member states and essentially with the European Parliament after hearings with stakeholders. So your position as stakeholders is particularly important, but don't forget that when we listen the complexity of the framework program, that has been a co-decision process, particularly with member states. And more and more programs have been added also as the result of that co-decision process. That is the reason why it's so important stakeholders like all of you speak loudly, certainly with the Commission, also with our representatives in the European Parliament, and don't forget that we are electing them in a few months' time, and then the representatives of the member states. And again, sometimes we ask more simplifications, but then some of the decision makers have been asked to introduce more complexity. So this is, again, we should be proud by this democratic regime of co-decision, but the end result has been very much a co-decision process.
Thank you. And I would like to challenge you a little bit, Dr. Esposito. We heard also that we should emphasize why we should invest more in research and in the European program. And you said also that I don't know if it was a kind of vision or facts that you said that €1 cost investment gave €5 back again. But that, as I understand you, was a kind of vision for 2040. But you also have some fact that investment in research is making impact to society and so on. So is it a really need for these kinds of facts, or is, you know, investments in excellence in research a benefit for democracy, for good open discussions and so on itself? So how do you find this balance between, you know, the excellence open science as compared to the eager or the you know, running for impact? What do you see?
Thank you very much for this question, and thanks a lot for the debate that is really very interesting, opening a lot of topic, tackling a different aspect. Regarding your question, indeed, what, as Professor Aitor was mentioning, but also many speakers, what we really need to demonstrate before speaking about the budget, the need of the budget, we really need to demonstrate the added value of the framework program of investment in research and innovation. We all agree, we all support the unicity of this feature of the framework program of collaborative research, the importance of a collaborative research that is really, it was the unique feature of the framework program in the last 40 years. But it is important also to demonstrate, as you were saying, what is the impact on the society, what is an impact to the citizen. This is what is really important. Earto was mentioning also before the importance of the exploitation or dissemination of the results, and also the directionality of our investment for research and innovation. This concept of directionality has been mainly introduced in Horizon Europe with respect to the previous framework program. But listening to different stakeholders, it's not every stakeholders agree with this approach of directionality, let me say. I had a meeting a few days ago, and they were complaining we need less directionality. So we really need to assess the balance between more open research, more downstream research, and also the need to have more directionality in order to create this impact, to have a research innovation investment that really have an impact on the citizens, on the society. This is a very difficult question, but what we need, we are trying to assess this figure that I was giving on €1 investment today, cost today, will translate in €5. It's really an assessment based on data of Horizon 2020. It's very difficult to measure what will be the impact of framework program, because the research and innovation investment will give a result in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So that's the reason why I was referring to a window, to time window of 2040. But if you allow me, I reply to your question. I would like to underline another aspect that has been, that Amanda has mentioned before, the importance of international cooperation. So I can also join the call for association, to have more association, to be more effective, also to allow other countries to participate to the program, because we really do recognize that we need cooperation with all international partners to be successful. And the discussion and the implementation of the policy, of the research and innovation policy, is really drawn up in the global approach communication. And there has been also last year an assessment and evaluation of this global approach. But let me say that it's a sort of motto. Europe needs to be open, or the framework program has to be open as possible, but closed when necessary. It is also a discussion of the leader across the street now. We really need to preserve the sovereignty and the strategic autonomy of Europe, in particular on these strategic sector, critical technologies. So let me underline this aspect of international cooperation. Europe should not be naive in a way in this current geopolitical context. It's important also to have a more strategic approach, especially on specific sector, on critical technology.
We can also open for questions from the audience. If there are someone who would like to have a question to some of the panelists and so on. So I see one there as well.
Good morning. Just a very quick comment and possibly also a message to deliver to you. So the comment is about regions. Presiding the Congress of European Emerging Regions, I have to bring this point. A good project for Horizon with excellence is also a project that helps bridging the divide between regional development. I'm not saying that we should evaluate excellence projects according to regional development criteria, but indeed there is the need of bringing that horizontal, cross-cutting, transversal factor to the project. Excellence should help regions to come united and to come indeed equal in terms of opportunities and regional development. That's one point. The other point is just a message to all of you. This morning I was invited to be opening the conference of Ukrainian universities, so the rectors and the leadership of Ukrainian universities. And I mentioned that, okay, I'm here, but getting late to NTNU event and so and so. And they sent a message to you, of course, saying that Europe may count on Ukrainian talent to be stronger together. So that's just a little message to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello? Yes? Thank you. And if some of the panelists would like to comment on that, you can do that. Are there some other comments or questions from the audience? I just also want to repeat what is said, I think, from both Professor Annemie Wickman and Rosso here about the collaboration, because the collaborative approach is something that it's not so easy to do that on your own, from your own country, but really, encouraging that through the program. I think that is very important also in the coming period. But then we have these questions, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm Katarina Angel-Hansen. I'm from the Research Council of Norway. I'm chairing the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership, which is coordinated by Margherita Capeletto, sitting here together with me. I have one question, and that relates to, one thing is directionality, but the other issue is also about the openness, for instance, to connect societal challenges to enabling technologies. So digital transformation, for instance, it's very challenging for us to manage that because there is no inherent mechanism for cooperation amongst other across partnerships. So we see in the new communication, for instance, on material, which is also certainly an enabler, the fact that it's now also focusing both on the deep tech and the enabling function. But will FP10 potentially look at the better and more seamless way where you're able to also break a bit of the boxes of the directionality to enhance higher tech components in not so tech-intensive industries and sectors which certainly need to be at that level. That's one thing. And then I would like to ask if anyone in the panel, because you're speaking about dissemination of knowledge, but you're also speaking co-design. And our experience is that if you're really going to succeed with a market uptake, it needs inherently to be thought of from the outset. First of all, because of the top cost, I'd say to bring forward a tech prototype is normally 1/3 of a cost of a market prototype. It depends a bit on the sectors. So that is also a key component to overcome the value of that, thinking market orientations where it fits the purpose of what you want to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like first to challenge you, Annemie, because you have been working with the city's mission, and there are a need for high-tech technology to really meet the challenges in the city missions as well, and climate neutrality and so on. Do you want to comment on the question from the Research Council regarding that?
Well, yes, I agree. And I think it's not just market update, but also just societal uptake. It can be in different forms. And actually, we also work closely with the Oceans Mission. Perhaps we could discuss that further in a coffee. Yes, and exactly that is so this co-design, how you do that, there is a way to get that into current Horizon Europe projects. It's a bit challenging, you know, if you have to define what you're going to do in detail and how much it's going to cost and with whom for the next 5 years, but then you're going to co-design it on the way. So that's a bit of a contradiction, but it is possible to make that work. So I hope that in FP10, the co-design element then will become even stronger, and there will be a little bit more leeway of, so perhaps explaining how you're going to co-design, what the process is going to be, but not necessarily having to define then what kind of technology or what kind of solution that will bring, because that is exactly the co-design part, right? And it links also to what you were saying earlier, so providing evidence, we need directionality, so this being louder together, doing this together, because the technologies, but also any kind of solution, so we see that usually there's like 80% of it is common across countries. There are local differences, or perhaps the method is the same, but the actual physical outcome is different, for example. So, but making everyone aware that the 80% is actually common, that is an advantage of working together across countries. So not everyone is developing a similar solution and then they don't match. So doing that also from the outside, so it's a kind of co-design as well to work internationally. And then to be louder together, that when we find good solutions and methods, that they also are heard. If you as an individual organization or a national project want to do that, it's very difficult to get across to policymakers. If you are a larger international constellation, it's easier. So, and now more than ever, it's very important because the strategic program now, military is very important. It links back to, well, Ukraine, of course, but also other events in the world. So military is becoming more and more important. Climate is losing ground. And in strategic programs and in reality, and how can we do more? There's so much knowledge around, and how can we make that more apparent? How can we reach across then with all of that evidence, all of that knowledge, everything that we have, whether it's an oceans mission or a cities mission, or it's a cluster 5 or 6 or 2 or whichever one, sorry for the ones I didn't mention, but so all of that knowledge, how do we get it across and how do we get it into market and into society as fast as possible? So if that can come more into FP10, that will be very important as well.
Yes. I think the time is actually running out, but you will all have some very quick comment before we end the session. But first, I give the word to you, Amanda Crawford. Comment on the question from the Research Council.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I think that related to this, we do need to see kind of better connectivity within the programme. And I think one thing we need is to initiate synergies at the programme design stage. I think what we see now is you have lots of different elements of the framework programme, and then we're trying to make them align after the programme has actually been launched. We need to actually have synergies by design, effectively. And I think the other thing that we need related to this is sequential funding within the programme. So the possibility of doing something at one level in one part of the programme and then being able to get follow-on funding for the next stage from somewhere else at in the programme. And I don't think we have enough of that, and I don't think it's clear enough and smooth enough. So I think that would just be another thing we'd like to see for the future, the synergies by design and sequential funding.
Thank you. And then, Dr. Rosso, what is your recommendation before I give the word to Esposito and Hayter?
The research policy, when we say increase links with industrial policy, it includes critical technology. It includes impact in cities, impact in oceans. So when we see the Net Zero Act that does not have a serious research and innovation chapter, this is what we see that is missing. And it's very important because in this climate of limited resources and overburden, and we hope to see more of that and then be able to work together.
And then finally, what did you hear today so far?
Very interesting things. And I would like really to thank you very much, the organizer and all the participants to this event, because it's really this event that gives us the opportunity to hear your voice. And as a concluding remark, I would like really to underline the importance to make your voice heard to the Commission in this initial phase, because we are preparing the proposal. This is really the time to do it, because we will soon, next year soon, to present a proposal. So all the position paper that you, other organization, will deliver, please do it, because this is very important, this participation, active participation engagement for the proposal that the Commission will table next year. Thank you very much.
We will take the challenge and we will be heard. And what did you hear, Professor Hayter, today?
You are very slow. Please be active, acting for more and better research and innovation. Why not you organize a manifestation on the streets of Brussels? We see agriculture people asking for more resources. Usually scientists, academics are inside their institutions and not be so active in this process. And be aware that there are many voices throughout Europe beyond what as the discussion here. So be active. Scientific activism is a very important issue, and we should be active and more active. And there has been many papers actually within the academic field. Just to answer to the question raised on critical technologies, I recommend the reading of a very recent paper about innovation in Europe, produced at the University of Bocconi in Italy with the Toulouse School of Economics, where essentially they compare the European labor force and European innovation outcome against the United States and also China. And it is clear that their main argument is that we have concentrated the last 20 to 30 years very much in what they call low-medium tech issues, against what others, particularly in the United States, have more invested in what they call by high tech, particularly the digital related systems. it is clear that we can always criticize what is a low or a medium tech industry, because most of the European investment has been in automobile industry. And actually they argue that when we look at the public investment at the overall European level and between Europe and the United States is roughly similar, 0.7% of the GDP, either here or the other side of the Atlantic. But when we compare the investment in research and innovation in the private sector, Europe has half of that in the United States. And essentially, this has a clear issue on the labor force. The type of salaries, either measured in terms of the investment per person in research and innovation in Europe and the United States, is very different. And in Europe, is half of that in the United States. And therefore, the key role of new areas from quantum to bioengineering or biotechnologies or advanced digital systems or advanced materials in all the areas is critically important. The point for the question is, what have we done in the last 20 years that make us so different from the way the American system has been developed? And also why, don't forget this, why our young generation, or at least part of our young generations, and not only in small or periphery countries, in large Central European countries, are moving to the United States. We still have, over the last 10 years, an important brain drain, as using a normal academic sentence, from large European countries like France and Italy to the United States. So how far can we better understand, how can we provide better research and innovation jobs in Europe facing to our competition? Why part of our talents, part of our young generations at 30 years old are moving to the United States? And my point is that I believe we have a unique political opportunity with the coming American elections. Yes. Can we not only bring back, but attract more talent, more young talent for Europe? And this probably is a very important opportunity in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and the time is running out, but I think the last point, we could have actually a separate panel discussion on that, because I totally agree that having, you know, the talent, taking care of them, developing them, what actually is important to make technology. We need people, we need brains, we need the deep tech talents as well. So I totally agree, and I think this should be also an important part of both the evaluation, but also in the strategic approach. And therefore, within this issue, universities have a very separate and important role in educating, you know, the skilled people and the talent on all the levels that are needed, both by industry and public sector as well. So thank you all, and we will be active not only for input, but also now having a small break before we go into the panel parallel sessions. Thank you.
That's when we forget just to make us come together. That's when you remember who you are.